When the Rains Returned, narrated by Mrs. Nexus. Before the betrayal, the rains came early that year, not the hesitant drizzle of a Lagos Harmattan morning, but a full-blooded, thunder-backed downpour that shook corrugated rooftops and sent muddy water snaking through the alleys of Mushin. Mama Shewa stood by the cracked window of her one face me, I face you apartment. The smell of wet dust and kerosene mixing with the scent of palm oil from the neighbor's pot was in the air. She was 52, but her body wore many years than that. A back curved from hawking granuts under the sun, feet swollen from standing in queues and markets, and hands calloused from years of scrubbing floors that weren't hers. Her husband had died 15 years ago. No warning, just a cough that lingered too long until he collapsed one night on their bed, never to rise again. That was the day she stopped being a wife and became a warrior. A single mother to 3 children, Shewa, Bayo, and Tunde. She sold his tools, then her wrappers, then the only land her father had left her in Abeokuta. Anything to pay school fees. She became a cleaner at a bank in Victoria Island, waking at 4 a.m. to beat traffic, praying that Lasma would be merciful and that her worn shoes wouldn't give out again. Every Christmas, she gave them her best. New clothes for them, used ones for her, meat in their soup, bones for her own bowl. And they had risen. Shewa, the firstborn, was now a nurse in the UK. Bayo had finished law school, working for a multinational firm in Ikoyi. Tunde, the baby, a tech bro in Lekki, forever talking crypto. She had done it, she thought to herself, until life turned. Then the betrayal. It started gradually, missed calls, late replies. Then Bayo stopped sending his monthly allowance, saying things are tight. Shewa from London would send voice notes filled with empty apologies. Mummy, things are hard here. Brexit, cost of living, you understand now. Tunde didn't even pretend anymore. He blocked her on WhatsApp. Then came the sickness. First a dull ache in her chest, then coughing blood. The doctors at the Lagos State Teaching Hospital said it was pneumonia, but there was complications. She needed 250,000 naira for treatment. She swallowed her pride and called her children. Bayo didn't pick up. Shewa sent 5,000 naira. Then Tunde read her message, then said, Mummy, I'm not an ATM. Don't guilt trip me. She cried that night, not from pain, but from the realization she had raised her children only for them to leave her behind. Her neighbors noticed. Iya Ronke brought her herbal tea. The landlord threatened eviction. She hadn't paid rent in 5 months. Her cleaning job, she had lost it after fainting in the staff toilet. Mama Shewa, once the pride of the street, became a ghost in her own home. One morning, as the sun fought through the Lagos haze, she packed a small bag and left Mushin. No goodbyes, just a quiet exit. She took a bus to Abeokuta. The land her father had once left, which she had sold, was now a stretch of overgrown bush. But she walked the familiar path. An old farmer recognized her. Abeni's daughter, he asked. She nodded. He offered her a room in his compound. Nothing grand, just a mud hut, but peaceful. She rested for the first time in years. Then she began to breathe again. A local priestess suggested herbs. A retired nurse showed her exercises, showing her strength, and slowly her strength returned. And something else happened. She began to write. She took her pain, her stories, and turned them into words. A local radio station in Abeokuta had a weekly storytelling segment. She submitted one of her tales under the name Iya Kofo. It aired, people wept. They called in again, asking for more. Each week, she wrote another. Stories of sacrifice, motherhood, strength. Her voice, hers, but full of power, soon became known. Then a journalist came. Then a documentary crew. Soon her life was published in The Guardian. An NGO from Lagos offered to sponsor her hospital bills. A women's group began inviting her to speak. Her radio show got a sponsorship, and she was paid per story. Mama Shewa, the forgotten mother from Mushi, had become a voice for women across Nigeria. They came on Wednesday, all three of them. Shewa in her designer glasses, clutching her handbag all the way from London. Bayo looking like a guild in a suit. Tunde with his dreadlocks tied up, phone in hand. They stood outside her small cottage in the Belkuta like strangers. She sat under the mango tree, watching chickens peck at the ground. Mummy, Shewa started, her voice shaking. Mama Shewa didn't reply. We saw your documentary, Bayo said. We didn't know you were suffering like that. Tunde shifted. I was stupid, Mummy. I was just selfish. She said nothing, then stood. Do you know what silence tastes like? She asked. It's bitter. Like chewing dry bitter leaf. That's what I tasted when I begged my own children and they turned away. They bowed their heads. She sighed, looking up at the skies. But I have forgiven you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. She turned back to them. You will not buy your way back into my life. If you want to be part of this journey, you walk in. From the beginning, no shortcuts. They nodded in acceptance with tears in their eyes. Now many years passed. Mama Shewa's home became a center for storytelling and healing. Women from across the country came to her to share and to learn. She published books. A film was made in her name. Her voice full of fire and forgiveness echoed across platforms. Her children, they stayed. Not perfectly, but present. They came to her shows, helped run her foundation, not because they were expected to, but because they finally understood her worth. One evening, as she sat on her porch, a storm rolled in. The wind danced through the trees, lightening the painted skies, but she was not afraid. She smiled, sipping her pap as the first drop landed. The rains had returned, but this time not to wash her away. They had come to bless and to take her home. The end. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Join me again next week for another edition. Thank you.